Right, so let's open a new scene and get going. On save. So we're going to look at setting up the viewport navigation so it's a bit more friendly to work with. So I'm going to press F for front. So there are three areas which I want to bring your attention to. The viewcube, which is this button, the zoom extents button down here, and the orbit subobject button down here. Let's look at this one first. So we know that if we click on our character over here and we use that, we can navigate around, and we can also click on it to switch viewports, and you can see that mine is behaving very quickly. But if you right click on this object, you can change to a menu here which allows you to configure various things and configure it. So that brings up the viewport configuration dialog. Now the important thing to note is this little checkbox here, that's on by default in Max. So if I OK that, you'll see what it does. So now if I click on any of these buttons, we get this nice little animated transition, which is very pretty. And I'm sure they thought it was a good idea at the time. However, it's also painfully slow, and it bugs the crap out of me when I'm trying to work fast. And the other thing, it can get stuck. So you'll think it's almost straight on, but actually it's not quite. And when you're trying to do accurate center lines and things like that, that can be really annoying. So I like to turn it off. So you right click on there, press configure, and tick that off. Okay. Right, so the next thing to configure is these two buttons down here. So we have zoom extents, and that goes all the way out there. So the first thing, well, one of the things you need to know about Max is whenever you see these tiny little triangles that means there's what's called a flyout, and that allows you to select different button options from your click. So there's flyouts all over Max, so whenever you see this white triangle, we get different scale options, here we get different pivot options, different snapping options, and all kinds of things. It's really useful. So here we have zoom extents all selected, and I want to change it to zoom extents. So now when I click on this button, it goes to zoom extents selected, which is the same as my keyboard setup, which is Z like that. That's super useful because when I'm modeling, I don't really want to be out here. I want to be focused on what I'm working on. I can always zoom out and size up the scene like that. Okay, so the next button is this one, which I've got to set to orbit subobject. Let's see what that does. So that orbits on the selected object, which is good. Now the subobject is found in the editable poly, and they are basically the components of the mesh, like vertices, edges, borders, and etc, etc. So if I select a poly here and rotate, you can see it doesn't rotate around the poly. It's kind of annoying. I like to have it orbiting around the poly, so like this, like that. So that's why I have it set to orbit subobject mode.